5 weeks ago today, I stopped taking Kratom, and I want to share with you my experience. Hey guys, welcome back to Joey Talks Life. My name is Joey. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. If you're returning, it's good to see you again. Just for a little context, if you never saw me before, I used to have a channel called Joey Talks, which talked about mental health, but really it ended up talking a lot about Kratom. I found Kratom when I was in the darkest place in my life, and it really helped me to get myself to engage with life again. It made me feel optimistic, positive, hopeful. And so it really did help me to engage with my therapist and even with myself. And over the years, I knew that taking Kratom wasn't going to be a lifelong thing for me, although part of my mind thought so, just because I was afraid to get off of it. Just because it was such a positive experience for me, I didn't want to go back to that dark place that I was in when I found it, which obviously that's not logical because that's 4 years ago. So I'm not in the same mental space. I've done a lot of healing, a lot of deep inner work. And so yet there was a part of my mind that was terrified to stop taking Kratom. But I wanted to share with you what my process was like. And this is my true and authentic story. I know some people out there may think that I'm trying to say something that I'm not trying to say. I just want to be honest about what my process looked like. I know not everybody's process looks like this, but this is what mine was like. So 7 weeks ago today is when I started to taper off of Kratom. But about 2 months before that, I switched from powder to the tea. So brewing loose leaf tea. And when I did that, I did experience some withdrawals. They weren't very intense. They were just basically feeling uncomfortable for a few days until my body adjusted to the tea. Now, I really enjoyed the tea because it wasn't as intense. It definitely was like a step down from the powder, but I was on that for about 2 months. I don't even know how much of that I was drinking. It's hard to really know measurements per se. I know how many grams of the leaf I put in the tea, but because it's infused, it's not ingesting the powder directly. So I did that tea thing for about 2 months, and then 7 weeks ago I started tapering. When I started tapering, I did go back to capsules because I wanted to know exactly how much I was taking. That's the only way I know to actually taper. So I started taking 8 grams a day. So I would do 2 grams in the morning. I do 4 doses of 2 grams. Now, as soon as I did that, I started experiencing withdrawals. I got major diarrhea, insomnia, felt very uncomfortable in my body, emotionally not exactly my norm. I felt lower energy, not as optimistic. So that was my first week tapering, 8 grams a day. Then the second week tapering, I did 6 for 3 days, and then I went down to 4. And then by that following Monday, I just took my last dose, which was 2 grams, and then that was it. I must say that the withdrawal process was a lot more intense than I had anticipated. I was actually really surprised at how intense the withdrawals were. And I have stopped periodically throughout my Kratom journey for about 2 days here, a few days there, and never really experienced that degree of withdrawals, but that's because I haven't really been off of it that long. And through this process, I would just recommend that if you find anyone else online or on YouTube that is talking about quitting Kratom, if they have not ever quit it for an extended period of time, I would take what they're saying with a grain of sand. And again, I'm very aware that not everyone's experience is my experience. I've seen people, I've heard of people that say, yeah, I stopped taking Kratom, I had no withdrawals whatsoever. And I don't know why that is. I don't know how much they were taking or how long they were taking it. But at my peak of Kratom, the amount I was taking, which was probably about a year and a half into it, I definitely was overdoing it. I probably was taking 80 grams a day. It was excessive, too much. And then when I got myself back down to a stable place or a healthy place with Kratom, I probably was taking about 20 to 25 grams a day. But again, that was over 4 years. So that was very consistent. There were other days I probably went higher than that and days that I went lower than that. But I would say 20 to 25 grams a day was my probably typical amount for the last few years. Once I actually stopped, did not take any more, then those acute withdrawals began. I had body aches. I felt sick to my stomach. The diarrhea continued. The insomnia was unbearable. I had slept maybe an hour or 2 a night. The insomnia has subsided, but I'm still having disrupted sleep. And I would say the insomnia probably lasted for about 5 weeks. which that then compounds what the withdrawals you're already going through, because you're mentally exhausted, your body's exhausted, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? So the acute withdrawals lasted for 5 days for me. Again, I just felt very sick. I felt like I had the flu. I could not really engage with my work, or I would force myself to do daily things around the house, but really no energy. Anhedonia, I definitely had that, which if you don't know what that is, that just means the inability to feel pleasure, fulfillment, satisfaction, accomplishment, all of that, which probably goes back to kratom produces a dopamine rush, in your body and in your brain. And so then when you remove that substance, your dopamine receptors aren't producing the way that they typically would. So now they have to relearn how to produce the dopamine, how much to produce, when, and all of that. So it's a whole process. After day 5, the physical withdrawals went away, aside for the diarrhea. The diarrhea and the insomnia continued for the next few weeks. And then what's considered post-acute withdrawal syndrome set in, which again was just extreme fatigue, extreme exhaustion, both mentally and physically. Could not feel pleasure at all. Like normal things that I love to do with my kids, I would still do them, and I would just feel numb, like nothing. So during the post-acute withdrawal syndrome stuff, which I think I'm still getting waves of it, but it's much, much better now. Like I said, it's just you feel like you have no energy. You feel lethargic. I felt like I had to lay down all the time. Not even because I was tired, like I wanted to sleep. I had to lay down because my body felt weak. Kind of like when you have the flu or any other illness and you just get tired all the time physically. I remember the second week after I quit kratom, I would walk from my car to my front door of my house, which is not very far. We're talking about maybe 10 steps, and I would be out of breath. And I'm like someone who works out all the time and am in pretty good shape, so it was bizarre to me. What I've learned through this process is that if someone wants to quit taking kratom, it does take a lot of mental fortitude. It takes a lot of support, and it takes a lot of determination, because every day when you're in this withdrawal cycle, you know that if you just have kratom, all the withdrawals will go away. So it's kind of like mind games. It's like constantly always being tempted with that chocolate cake, but you can't eat it. And so it really did take a lot of mental perseverance in order to get to the point where I'm at now. And like I said, this has been 5 weeks since I took my last dose of kratom, 7 weeks since I started the taper, and I'm just starting to feel somewhat normal. I definitely don't feel like my normal self. I still get waves of exhaustion or waves of anhedonia, again, not being able to feel pleasure, but they're getting less and less intense and less in duration and frequency. So it's all starting to go away. And I think after reading a lot about withdrawal in general, whether it be from alcohol or nicotine or opioids or kratom, they all kind of have a very similar pathology, which is just simply your body is become accustomed to this substance, causing your brain to produce excessive amounts of neurotransmitters, which make you feel really good, motivated, optimistic, decrease anxiety, all of that. And then when you suddenly remove that thing, your brain starts to freak out. Your body doesn't know what to do, and it has to go through this process in order to re-regulate. So there was a few moments where I had these extreme highs, I felt so excited about life and whatever, but then an hour later, it was I needed to lay down because I felt so exhausted in my body. And so that whole process is just dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, which endorphins are what your body produces as its natural opioid. So it takes time in order for the body to re-regulate itself without having that substance all the time. So that's kind of just a brief overview of my journey in getting off of kratom and what it was like for me. And I'm curious if you have ever stopped taking kratom for an extended period of time. And let me define that. I mean, being off kratom for at least a month, 30 days. If you don't mind sharing your experience in the comments below, but make sure you also include how much you were taking and how long you were taking it, because that's a big factor. If I was only taking kratom for 6 months, even if I was taking 30 grams a day for 6 months, I don't think that the withdrawals would have been as long or as intense. Also, if you're looking for help to either stop taking kratom or just to get a handle on it, I still offer consultation services where we can meet one-on-one on Zoom. The link is in the description below. I'm anticipating you guys are going to have a lot of questions, and so there will be multiple videos in this series, in this playlist, where I hope to answer a lot of your questions. And if you haven't subscribed to this new channel, I'd invite you to do so. Give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend. And if you are interested in staying in touch, go ahead and hit that little bell so you always get notifications when I post a new video. Thanks again for spending some time with me again today. Again, my name is Joey, and you've been watching Joey Talks Life.